This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing very well. I had an old YouTube tab open because I was trying to remember what it was like when the Patriots were in these tight games with the old Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning. And I watched a 2009 YouTube clip of the Patriots going for it on 4th and 2 at their own 30-yard line or so.
Would have broken the internet if the internet existed at that time. And when I mean the internet, I mean Twitter.
I still remember some of the blowback that happened after that game.
That's what I mean. And people were calling for Belichick's head. They thought it was the craziest thing that's ever happened.
14 years ago. And then here he is, 4th and less than a yard, because now they have the exact GPS. So I think Barnwell tweeted it, and it's at 0.9 yards. And there he is punting it. And it's just like, on your 2 and 10. This is where
that's what this game felt like. This game felt like a how the mighty have fallen sort of game. And as I was sitting there watching it, we can dig into some of the specifics.
And they won.
They won. I'm definitely tempted to go wider on this than to dig into what actually happened in the game. We can talk about the long snapper false start and any other actual moments that happened. But these are the two longest tenured coaches in the NFL. They've got what? 8 Super Bowl wins, 7 Super Bowl wins combined between them. I always forget how many Belichick has because I confuse it with Brady. He's got 6
assistants.
So not a single losing season for Mike Tomlin. Some of the best, most impressive accolades we've ever seen from head coaches.
Yep.
Feels like both of these teams are in it's time to look in the mirror mode about what comes next. And we've had that discussion about the Patriots. We know that. They're a 2-win team coming into this. Them winning this game and potentially this propelling them out of a top 2 pick and not getting a quarterback in next year's draft somehow. They stumble into one more. They play the Jets in week 13 would be deeply hilarious, but that's something that's neither here nor there. We could talk about that later. The Steelers, though, this loss stat was thrown out right at the end of the broadcast. They're the first team over 500 in NFL history to lose consecutive games, both to teams that are at least 8 games under 500.
Okay. Wow.
First team ever. So this is you can make an argument that this is the worst 2-loss stretch that the league has ever seen based on that metric.
Based on win-losses. Wow. Yeah.
And now the Steelers are in a position where they might not make the playoffs because of these 2 losses. And the way that things are currently trending, it feels like they won't make the playoffs. And I know that they've been able to stave off all of those losing seasons and that we talk all about this culture that Mike Tomlin has created. And I think that all of that is justified. What he has built in that place and how the players seem to really take ownership of what that building is, all that stuff. I've always found it fascinating. I've always found it impressive. But the Steelers right now, whether they make the playoffs or not, after everything that's happened with Matt Canada, after everything that's happened with Kenny Pickett, after what their offense looked like tonight, I think it's really time to have some serious conversations about the aggressive, ambitious choices that they need to make at some key positions this offseason if they want to get themselves out of this funk.
It's a quick revamp season. It's more of a reload than I wouldn't say a reshuffle or anything, because I do think the defense, even as it is aging, it still has young enough pieces. As long as you see TJ Watt taking another shot to the chest and missing a couple plays, and you're like, also TJ Watt, only a 7th snap from the right side of the defense this entire year happened tonight on that TFL. He only lined up 6 times this entire year on the right side of the defensive formation. So that's something to notice too. But I watch it, and when you're watching this offense, it just feels so listless. And that's the thing, when Matt Canada, yes, he was calling the plays, but it's not like there's some inspiring assistant that you're like, hey, we got to give this guy a chance. When you're watching this stuff, you watch that 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 sequence, and it's like, how is it this bad? Why is that the play call? The 3rd and 2 one was everybody in the world that's ever watched the Steelers offense the last couple of years, because the guy calling plays now is a Matt Canada assistant. They're going to run quick game. With Belichick, whichever one's calling the play, you know what you do against quick game? You drop 8. They dropped 9.
9 guys. Coverage. They had 2 guys as pass rushers on that play. It was phenomenal.
They knew it. And then on 4th and 2, and this is what I wanted to get into, because it's just this is just poor design. This is high school design. And that's why it's just how are you guys doing this? And how have you not fixed it where everything's modernized as the season goes along? We're never calling that again because of this. They run drive, which is a crosser and a dig over the middle of the ball, and then 2 go routes on the outside. So those two go routes have nothing to do with any of the routes happening in the middle of the field. So you're truly doing a 2-man concept and the 2 iso ball concepts on 4th and 2. When you look around the league and you watch other teams doing drive, they're running wheel routes. They're running a post over it to make it super aggressive. They're making their choice routes. They're running all this other stuff, corner routes. We talked about Stafford and the Rams today. They run a high-low corner smash concept with that play because they're getting everybody involved. Everybody's live. This, you're just, it's a one-on-one. And you're saying, yeah, our guy's going to go win on a go ball. And it's just that that's what you're like relying on. And it's just so disappointing to watch a team that, I don't know. It's just, there's got to be something, so more inspiration just mentally, even if it's Trubisky back there. It's like,
It's so uninspired. Everything about it has been uninspired. Going back for the last 4 or 5 years, the word I've continued to use about the decisions that they've made is inertia. Matt Canada was the quarterback's coach, so then he was the offensive coordinator, right? It's just the inertia that has taken over the decisions that they've made on that side of the ball specifically. Yeah. And I think that they need to make some radical decisions this offseason. Very similar, in my mind, to what John Harbaugh did with Todd Monken this offseason, where they said, we need to go get a guy to fix this. Yeah. And I think that's why, even though John Harbaugh's been there for 15 years and Mike Tomlin's been there for 16 years, it doesn't feel stale in Baltimore because they've done such a good job of consistently updating and consistently revising who they are, how they operate, and that includes the offensive side of the ball. Steelers have not done that. Again, the inertia has taken over. Yeah. So this offseason, you have Cam Hayward's 35. TJ Watt's going to be 30. Minka Fitzpatrick's going to be 29. You have these guys that are slow to getting up there. There's still talent on this team. There's still a decent amount of talent on this team. But you need to make some pretty aggressive choices if you're going to get the most out of that talent. Yeah. I firmly believe this team should be in the market for a new quarterback next offseason. Not because I think that Kenny Pickett is some lost cause or that all of this is his fault, but I think the timeline dictates that you have to make a big-time decision here. Like the Kirk Cousins conversation, I think applies to where the Pittsburgh Steelers are because I think you need to do something to get yourself out of this and something to maximize whatever this version of the roster is right now.
Yeah, they love running it back, and that's what's annoying. And it's like even the backups are running it back. It's not like you're watching Trubisky, and you watch that every day. He looks like he's never played football. And it's not like he was going to improve, and you're like, oh, okay, he's giving us a chance here. Compared him and Browning and like
it's a great point. It's a great point.
Browning looks ready to play. And look at him. He's making reads. They're running plays for him. They're aggressive with him. They're getting him on the move. It's inspiring. And we've complimented that Bengals coaching staff for how they kind of shift on the fly. And oh man, this guy's been on your roster for a year and a half. They act like they just signed him this week. You watch Kevin O'Connell.
It looked like they just signed him this week.
Watch Kevin O'Connell with Joshua Dobbs. And just like, hey, like I'm getting plays. Like, there's just so many better examples.
But that's such a good point about what other teams have built offensively as an ecosystem within their building and what this team has done over the last 3 or 4 years. The only reason that it's not the worst plan that we've seen on that side of the ball is because the Patriots exist. It's the only reason. It is just so disheartening to see this. And I understand as a Steelers fan how you'd be getting toward the end of your rope because I get why you're frustrated as you look at the national discourse around Tomlin, and he seems to get such a pass because of his strengths in all these other areas. Yeah. And I think he does deserve some of that. He does deserve the benefit of the doubt in some spots because of all the things he's done and because of all the pelts on the wall. But at a certain point, if you don't get with the times and you don't take more intentionality and thoughtfulness to what that side of the ball looks like in 2023, you can't operate like it's 2008 anymore. You just can't do it. You can't win football games that way. This isn't those Ravens-Steelers games in 2008 where it was a street yard brawl and anything went, and you could win those games 21-20. You're not going to be able to compete with the best teams in the league, and I think that's exactly how the Steelers feel right now. They feel like they're stuck in another time period, and they've run out of road.
Yeah, both of these franchises have to get out of their comfort zone this offseason. I mean, like big time. That like they were almost victims of their own success because why rock the boat when everything's working? Yeah. And again, but they also have quarterbacks that you always can rely on. And we laugh at Roethlisberger in his late years, but it's like he had a stretch that was damn good, and they could just always rely on that when other stuff was just not kind of going their way. And now you could see where it's like, oh shoot, we got to figure out the quarterback position. We got to groom them, and we
can't just hand wave it.
Yes, and I'm on OC/quarterback coach pairing 7 because all the other guys, there's brain drain, there's all this other stuff. It's a totally different era that I have to do this stage of team building. And that it's so different. We talked about had a great conversation. I thought about the Rams and Ravens, pat myself on the back and you on the back, but today on our show, but how quickly these things change. Watching the Rams offense over the last couple of years, it's like in 3 years, they totally have to shift their entire offense because of just trying to keep up with what's going on. And then you watch these teams running out fullbacks is fine, but just how they utilize them. I'm talking about those passing concepts. It's like this stuff just happens so quick. Now, just thinking about building a team, how did we groom the quarterback back in the day in 2000 compared to how we do it now in 2023 and 2022 and 2021? It's totally different. So it's like, it's reps at anything. And now this is the first time they've had to go through this type of rep. And it's just been so long.
Just look at what the successful quarterback development plans or the salvation plans have looked like over the last 3 or 4 years. The guys who either have succeeded from the get-go or the guys who have been brought along further than we ever thought they might based on what their first year or two looked like. Tua, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow and what he looks like with some of the guys that he's working with. All of those plans, there is something at the center of it. There's again, ecosystem is the word I keep coming back to. There's an ecosystem around this that allows these guys to reach their potential, to develop, to take the steps that you need them to. That just does not exist in this place. And I don't think Kenny Pickett's been very good. I think that he's part of the problem, but I also don't think he's been put nearly in the best position to succeed based on the decisions that the organization has made over the last 3 or 4 years. So I don't think that's why I think they're such a good candidate for a stopgap quarterback option, because I think that their chance to develop a quarterback with this current version of the roster has probably already sailed.
Right. Just any type of one. What's Jacoby Brissett's contract looking like?
Oh God.
But that's the world they might have to live in. I mean, but wouldn't you you feel so much better just do have some talent. Like we talk about, Pickens isn't perfect. And I know other kind of pieces might be leaving and everything, but Freiermuth has shown flashes and everything. They have the new Slash in Hayward. The offensive line.
Johnson is a decent player.
I'm trying to remember what his contract stuff is.
He's like 11 million. So he's got, I think he's got like 15 million next year.
That's why I paused. I was trying to remember like what his
he got paid.
They invest in the offensive line, but what you're saying is like they just need steadiness there. And I know it feels like
I think they have enough pieces up front. I think they have enough pieces on the offense, period, where if you have a different person in charge of building that thing and a quarterback that you can function with, I don't know what Ryan Tannehill is going to be like next year. Just those types of guys. Yeah. Those are the guys that like you're going to have to, I think, if you're the Steelers, I think those are the guys that you're going to have to consider, or any sort of option. I think Justin Fields is an intriguing one who might be available, but I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to turn to, because I would opt for certainty more than I would for potential if I was Pittsburgh. And maybe not. Maybe that's the wrong way to think about it. But I just think that anything to kind of keep the train on the tracks for them is something that they should think about.
Oh yeah, no, they got to be turning over the options. Also there was what was the other thing? The most exciting moment of the game was the offsides punt on the punt that didn't actually end up being called offsides. But that's just where we're at, that these teams that have had these battles over the years, the Steelers and the Patriots, are playing Thursday night. And the most exciting moment of the entire game was what we thought was an offsides on a 4th and 2. But I thought that was amazing. My other highlight of the night, sorry, I'm just shifting the conversation, but the other highlight of the night for me was Hunter Henry's slot fade touchdown that Bailey Zappi threw. And Ezekiel Elliott's mom replied to one of my tweets about that. I think Zeke should get some reps at special teams after that tackle. And she said, no, but he could step up to the challenge if he actually had to do it. So those were some highlights. I actually had a decent night, always Twitter wise, and some other moments picking through this game and parsing through this game as like we watched the Steelers just be blah. The boos in Pittsburgh, I'm just like not used to. It's like just so weird.
I think it's justified though. I think every single bit of frustration from them was completely justified.
Oh my God. Oh,
if we're talking about
how many third longs were there, that's actually something I wanted to look up before the show, but I didn't.
I mean, it was staggering how consistent, not how consistent, but how functional the Patriots offense looked in the first half. And then when the second half started, I was like, oh, that's more like it. That's what I expected this to look like. Them not being able to block anybody, them not being able to move the ball. They had like a 21% success rate in the second half. It felt so much more comfortable.
So the combined first and down success rate, just first and second down, the Patriots are at under 30%. and the Steelers were at 37%. So there's a lot of third and longs today. That's what the whole day felt like.
We're talking about how far the mighty have fallen. The back-to-back sequence of punts by the Patriots was one of my favorite moments of the night. They got one blocked with a guy's face, right?
Yeah.
A guy blocked a punt with his face. And I thought the next one was even better. They punted on that 4th and 0.9 yards from their own 40-yard line, let's say.
0.9 yards.
The punter punted it 8 yards deep into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
It is the worst attempt I have seen of trying to get down a punt inside the 10 in a very long time. It's, when you're playing golf sometimes and there's just a moment where you just hit it out of frustration, just launch it over the green, or just like, fuck this, I'm just banging it somewhere else. That's what it felt like, where it was like, whatever, I'm just punting this thing out of the back of the end zone. But it was a punt. Just that level of lack of attention to detail with this team that was lionized for that for 2 decades. That's everything that they were supposed to be. It's just such a consistent reminder of how different this version of the Patriots feels.
It is.
And we could have the conversation about what Belichick's going to do and where he's going to go, everything else. Mike and Kirk talked about, or Al and Kirk talked about it for 10 minutes because he didn't want to talk about the game.
Al knows something. Al was trying to toe the line and try and get through all that. Oh yeah, no, they were talking about all the connections, every possible kind of how this could end. Oh yeah, Al at the beginning, because the game kind of picked up as it went along. The schlock got good. It was kind of like the core, but the first half, Al was not enthused. He was Kirk was bringing it tonight. I will give Kirk. Kirk was like, hey, don't have to worry about this weekend, about going, it's Army Navy. And so he was into it, but Al had to get into it. He had to kind of get warmed up as the game went along. I could tell. So that block punt, everything actually just sparked up Al a little bit. But I think it was Miles Killebrew, which is a name I haven't thought about in a long time. Yeah, that's where we're at, is that the Patriots for 2 years now have had weak special teams, which is just something I would never thought I would ever see in my entire life. I always thought just with these Patriots teams, their defense will be good, their special teams will be decent. That's just what they're going to be. Who knows what the offenses will be post Brady. When you see the special teams just falling apart this last year and a half, it's just 2 years. It's just brutal. And then you got Miles Killebrew for the Steelers making plays as opposed to James Harrison. Something. Some point. Oh, they got plenty of defensive talent, but I guess offensive talent too. But just random players out there for the Steelers.
The funniest outcome, again revisiting this, is if somehow this win becomes a part of the Patriots no longer getting one of those top 2 picks. Because if you're a Patriots fan right now, you have 2 places where you can find solace. Yeah. One, all the Lombardi trophies that you have back at home in the case, which is fantastic. It was a great run of 20 years. I'm very happy for all of you. 2, the potential to have one of the quarterbacks in this year's draft.
So many Thursday shows have ended with us looking at Tankathon. So.
That's what it should be. There's so many Patriots fans are drying their tears with a printout of the Tankathon rankings every single week. And if this somehow becomes part of the Cardinals jumping them or somebody else jumping them, I still think they're probably going to get one. They have a harder schedule than the Cardinals do, I believe, or will by the end of it. So I think, or right now, actually, they don't. So this is going to be fascinating. I mean, it's what happens with the Patriots, where they're picking, who's making that pick, what happens with Belichick. We've talked about it a lot, but it really is the only interesting thing about this team to me right now. And it's why I'm fixated on it, because I don't know where else to take the conversation.
But the Commanders are kind of going like, hey, don't forget about us. They got Rams. So they got to bye this week. That's right. Rams, Jets, 49ers, Cowboys. Commanders are going like, hey guys, we might be dropping like a stone. That's it. That came out of nowhere. Actually, now that I'm just kind of looking at that. Yeah.
I mean, that would be incredible if they ended up doing that. I think for them, the mock drafts we're looking at right now, they had the left tackle from Penn State. I think that's perfect for them.
Perfect.
If they don't get a quarterback.
I gave them Alt, which is the left tackle from Notre Dame in my mock.
Yeah.
I think they had pick 6 in my mock, but now they're kind of just slowly getting there. They're getting into that range now. No, this draft, especially for the teams at the top, it's kind of perfect for them. You got offensive weapons galore, legit first rounders, and then you got 4 legit first left tackle types or offensive tackle types, and then you got a couple quarterbacks, and actually really 3 quarterbacks, because Daniels from LSU is getting a lot of pub right now, and I think it's just because a lot of guys are catching up like I did when as more of his tape came out. It's like, hey, this guy is intriguing. He's a little skinny, which has got me a little worried, but he's a baller. But I think he's going to probably end up going top 15-ish because it's now finally somebody took the QB3 spot and kind of got up there. So I actually think that's really intriguing.
We'll see what happens. Remember what we have said this time last year about Anthony Richardson, for example.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know. That's
Washington picking in the top 5, and if Arizona doesn't end up drafting a quarterback, maybe Washington's in a spot where they get their guy and they can kind of turn the page at the right time with new ownership, new coaching staff, all of that. So
I want to
see what
the
happens.
Cardinals. Oh, so bad. I think everyone does. I think everyone is.
And I think it might happen.
Yeah,
I think there's a legitimate chance that they keep Kyler, but that's another one where if they don't end up keeping him, do the Steelers make some sort of call? Because that's the type of option where they just need somebody to come
I
in
would like that
and turn this thing around. If you look at their cap, actually, they are pretty easily en route to $25-30 million of cap space with some logical cuts. Yeah,
I was actually curious about that. I actually haven't
Allen
looked at their
Robinson.
cap
I was just looking at it in the fourth quarter, as is one is want to do when you're watching a team like that. Allen Robinson,
you and Al Michaels.
Robinson, Patrick Peterson, a few other guys. I mean, so they can free up $25-30 million of cap space pretty easily. TJ Watt has a $20 million base salary. If you want to restructure that, you easily can. So if they want to make a move for any sort of quarterback and fit it in under the cap, they can do it without having to do a lot of gymnastics. So
that's interesting.
Something to keep an eye on, because I think that they are in need of something drastic based on where this team is at right now and based on some of the talent that is wasting away potentially on that roster. So I never expected this. Never expected the Steelers to be sitting where they were 2 weeks ago, and now we're worried about them missing the playoffs after losing those 2 games. But that's exactly where we are right now.
It was the sneaky wild card pick bowl. That's what the Steelers-Patriots game was right there. That blew up in everybody's faces. That was everybody. That was the Steelers. I was like, I could see them maybe sneaking in with all the voodoo magic, But nah. After watching that offense, man, it's just like, oh my God, that's pretty rough.
All right, that's all we got. Mercifully, that's all we got. Highly encourage you guys to go check out our Week 14 preview on the Athletic Football Show, available where you get your podcasts. A lot of fun conversations. Did a deep dive on the Cowboys and the Eagles. Really fun discussion about the Rams and the Ravens as expressions of where offenses and defenses are in the NFL right now. Chatted a little Bills, Chiefs, among others. So please go check that out whenever you get a chance. We will be back here on Sunday night, breaking down all things Week 14. Until then, really appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.